Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Growing Stronger Together. Thank you for joining us today and listening. My name is Kim Hale, and I'm your host today. And for those of you who are loyal listeners, you know that I primarily have guests in that focus on young children and families. Lots of times it's about literacy development, language development. I'm always trying to find a way to support parents and support grandparents or child care providers or teachers, anyone who works with children, trying to support them to improve their skills, give them more knowledge, give them more access to resources, because our goal with this podcast is to grow a stronger community and help you raise healthy children. I have a returning guest today. Welcome, Kim Thornhill.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It was probably was it about this time last year? Maybe a little later?
It was about a year ago.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming back all the way from Knoxville.
Yes, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it last time, so I came back to try again.
I did too. It was a very popular episode.
Oh, good.
You enlightened a lot of people, including me.
Oh, good.
And I bought a bunch of new books. I'm not sure that was good, but no, it's always good.
I understand. I'm a book junkie.
I am too. And I mean, I have grandchildren, but they're not with me every day, but you would think that they were with the amount of books that I buy.
Yeah, just in case when they visit.
That's right. I mean, when they come over, they say, Kiki, do you have new books? Of course I do, right? Do you have new toys? Of course I do.
Yes.
And my son is like, Mom, hey, you only get to be a Kiki of little kids one time. That's right.
Yes.
Very important. So last time you were here, we talked a lot about language and literacy. You brought some books that really blew my mind because I think of myself as a, maybe not quite the expert on children's books, but I keep an eye on, I have my favorites.
Yes.
I know about the awards that are given out every year and what's popular, but you brought ones that I see that you brought more today.
I brought more books.
And I don't recognize any of them, so I can't wait for that part. Let's remind everybody what you do if they haven't listened to that episode. And of course, it's been a while. So you drove about an hour and a half this morning from Knoxville. I greatly appreciate that.
Oh, it's an easy drive. I enjoyed it.
And it was probably beautiful today.
It really was.
Yes.
It started out a little foggy,
Yes.
but it got better as
Yes.
the drive went on.
The only bad thing, I guess, is that you're driving east, and so you're facing the sun.
It wasn't bad though.
Okay,
Yep.
well, good.
It was the perfect time of day.
Good. And you actually work at the University of Tennessee.
I do.
And you work on a grant contract from the state of Tennessee.
Yes, through DHS.
Through Department of Human Services. And you work for an organization called Child Care Resource and Referral. And audience, you may hear me say CCR&R because that's what we call it, but that's what it stands for, Child Care Resource and Referral. So talk a little bit just about what you do so the audience knows what your day-to-day is like.
Well, essentially, we are educators who educate educators, to put it in one term. But we do work under DHS. So we work with DHS licensed child care centers. That ranges anywhere from 6 weeks up to 5th grade. And so with our school-age programs, they're more after-school programs and summer programs. But we go into those classrooms, into those centers, and we help teachers. We model good quality practice. We help them follow DHS guidelines, so that way they make sure they're following everything they should. And then we also lead professional development trainings.
And you do some of that for parents at times, right? I've seen CCR&R, they do offer things for parents.
Yes, we actually have a family engagement team that
Okay.
specifically addresses family needs and family interactions.
And this is free.
Yes, completely free of charge to families, educators.
So if you're in Tennessee, look for Child Care Resource and Referral. But I think every state has some system very similar.
Yes.
May not always be called Child Care Resource and Referral, but a very similar service.
Yes.
When we say a child care licensed by DHS, in the state of Tennessee, a child care can be licensed by one of two entities, Department of Education, which is more aligned with the school system,
Yes.
or Department of Human Services, aligned with the Tennessee Department of Human Services.
Yes.
And the regulations are similar in a lot of ways, but also different.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going into the DHS which is really probably the majority of childcare centers.
Yes. With
Yes.
childcare centers, the majority is DHS. There are some that are licensed under DOE. They're usually connected to either the school system or even a private school that's
Right.
licensed
Okay.
under DOE.
That makes sense. The other thing I want to bring up that I noticed when you and I exchanged emails is that, when your signature for your email says Kimberly Thornhill, and then you have these initials after your name, which I think stand for Infant Early Childhood Mental Health, an endorsement
Yes.
from the Association for Infant Mental Health in Tennessee. Am I right?
It is. And AIM High for short. And basically, they're a partner program. They're funded also through DHS. And they focus on early childhood mental health. Well, and I say early childhood, meaning birth through. And so by getting those credentials, it essentially says that I've got background and experience. I've taken classes, extra courses on child development, integration of inclusion, and just general all around well-being for children.
And also their families, right?
Yes, and their families.
And you were a classroom teacher.
Yes, for a little over 20 years.
Yes. And so this is very, this is definitely your playground. Like this is familiar. Right?
Yes. I can talk about this for days.
You're just the right person to have with me today. So when you and I exchanged emails, you gave me some choices about I could talk with you about this or this or this. And the one that you offered that I said, yes,
this is the one,
was about challenging behaviors and mental health. And I brought this today because I wanted to show you. This is the Johnson City Press from Monday, like this past Monday. And the article on the front says, Classroom Crisis. Educators say extreme behaviors are more prevalent post-COVID, and I want your opinion on that. But I want to read to the audience just a few things from this article. Johnson City interviewed a school chief superintendent, assistant superintendent in charge of special ed and student services, asking her, what are you seeing? And she highlighted that in April of last year, so about a year ago, the Pew Research Center conducted a study and put it out with the title, What It's Like to Be a Teacher in America Today. And they found that 68% of teachers that they surveyed had been yelled at or verbally threatened by students, and that for 8 out of 10 teachers, 58% of them said they spend time addressing student behaviors every day. And if you're listening, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, middle school and high school students, they can be sassy and, all the things. But no, I want you to wait. Because what she says is, we've seen a shift in extreme behaviors, and it's raising alarms because it's occurring in our youngest students. And this is a quote, we've seen it most often in our lower grades, like pre-K through second grade. These children just do not seem to have a lot of coping mechanisms. They're not doing well with transitions and the pieces that come along with being in school for the first time.
Yeah.
And so when you said to me, Kim, I can talk with you about challenging behaviors and mental health, I thought, well, that's very timely because it's on everyone's mind.
Yes.
And knowing you and how much you enlightened me last time, I think you're going to have good information and some tips.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, let's start with this. Let's start with this idea of younger children and also this post-COVID. Do you really think you've been doing this for a long time? So you were working with young children and families and teachers and childcare providers before COVID?
Yes.
And after COVID. Do you think that it's really a big change since we've had the lockdown?
I think there has been an increase, but the increase was happening prior to COVID.
Really?
So even statistically, there was a study done, and it was a 5-year study, and in children 17 and under, between 2016 and 2020, stress levels increased by 27%, anxiety increased by 29%. And even though those aren't directly behaviors, they often lead to some of the behaviors we're seeing.
Yes, because I know that every behavior has a function.
Yes.
And people don't often think about that, but a behavior is communicating a need.
And at those young ages, they don't necessarily have the words to express what it is that they're feeling or what they're frustrated about. And honestly, they might not even know what they're frustrated about. And for those who are familiar, there's a model, we call it the iceberg model, where when you think about an iceberg, you've got the ice that you see above the water, but down below, it's even more substantial. You don't see all of these things below the surface. And that's kind of what we use to represent our children and behaviors. On top, you might see fighting, or argumentative, back talking, things like that. But underneath, there are a lot of things that are going on. For some children, it might have been drug exposure, or neglect or abuse. But there are other things that come into play too. Maybe divorce, could be lack of sleep. It doesn't mean that the home life is bad. It just means that child didn't get very much sleep last night.
Happens to all of us.
Right. I mean, and some days it might be that I put my shoes on wrong and they're rubbing my toes. I mean, we've all worn those shoes.
Yes. Yes.
And so they can't necessarily express it, or if they do, a lot of times, it's, yeah, I get that they're hurt. Your toes are hurting, but we can't go home to fix it. You've got to move on.
Yeah, live with it.
Exactly. And, as adults, we have the coping mechanisms to know, oh, I know, why this is going on. But I know in a few minutes, I'll be in my car. I can sit down, my feet aren't going to hurt. And with children, they are not processing that same way.
Well, and I think that the other important thing, as you're talking about this, Kim, I'm thinking, I mean, honestly, it's been a while since my kids were young, right? But I was so focused on how stressed I was and my list of, I have to get ready. I've got to pack my lunch. They've got to have a diaper bag. We've got to have bottles. We've got to get to childcare. We've got to navigate the traffic. I've got to drop them off. I've got to get to work. And so I'm just going to admit, I don't know that I was always in tune with what they may have been feeling, because I was so wrapped up in what I was dealing with, right? And in my frustration of, let's go, let's go, let's go, I would have been the parent that said, okay, suck it up, Buttercup, you've got those shoes on, we're just going to have to go with it. I don't have time to change them now. Like, I've got to be at work, and we've got a half-hour drive, right?
Right.
So I think the first thing that you're saying is for parents to calm down for a minute and think, oh, there's somebody else that is in this realm with me, and they're also feeling.
Right. So in that scenario that you gave of, okay, I've got to get to work, I've got to do all these things. So, maybe the adult wakes up late, so that, gets the child up late. Mom, dad, whoever, they're running around trying to get everything ready. They know they've got a meeting. The dog throws up. They yell at the child, can you clean this up real quick?
So true.
Well, what's happening on the other end is the child is being rushed. When you're rushed, you start getting nervous, you start dropping things, your stress level goes up, you start getting that anxiety. Your heart's beating faster, your hands are shaking, and it might not even be that extreme, but there's still
something.
They're still feeling it. And so then they run, they get in the car, they realize they forget something. Mom says, nope, never mind, we got to go. So then they arrive at school, hurry, 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 get out of the car. Okay, so and I say mom, but mom or dad, whoever, gets to work. And as soon as they get to work, somebody says, don't forget the meeting. And they snap. And as an adult, they're not going to yell or hit, but they might be like, yes, I know. And then they might go to their workspace, sit down, take a minute, get their thoughts. Okay, I just need a quick cup of coffee, get myself together. I'm ready for the meeting. They go to the coworker, hey, I'm sorry, it was a really rough morning. So, problem solved. They've had that moment to decompress. That child experienced all of those same things. And then when that child got out of the car, he or she has been told, hurry, hurry, hurry all morning. So takes off running into the school. And the first thing they say is, stop running.
Very true.
So it's just like, oh, okay, run, don't run, mixed messages. But they've still got that anxiety because they've been told to hurry all day. So then they get to the classroom, they're running late. The teacher says, oh, you're running late here. We've already started. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. They're playing catch up. And then finally, it's like, the teacher says, do this. And they're like, no. So immediately we're like, whoa, defiance, aggression, all of those words that come in with challenging behaviors. So, maybe the teacher says, whoa, you can't talk like that.
Right.
And, not to say that every teacher is going to do that, but, maybe one thing leads to another. They end up in the principal, this can just keep going.
Yes.
And so here were two people who were part of the same scenario, but it ended very differently. One had the moment to calm and decompress and had the rational brain to think about it and process, apologize, all the things. This one never got that chance.
Right. Well, and also, Kim, I think in the situation with the parent, as coworkers, as you see someone, especially a parent, right, when you know that they have young children and they come in and okay, it's been one of those mornings.
Right.
It's not unusual for people to say, hey, you got it. It's going to be okay, right? There's some sense of encouragement. I mean, your boss may say you're late again, but for the most part, I think people are supportive.
Right.
I don't know, like in the scenario that you described of the child going in, do the adults think about this and provide support to the child like they did to the adult? Or is it just a tendency to say, oh, you're a behavior problem?
I think it depends on the environment because there are some people who are very, very aware of that. And of course, in our profession, we go around and we try to, teach educators and help them and support them and bring these things to light. But sometimes in the school system, and I've been in the school system as well, your day, is scheduled down to the minute.
Correct.
And if you miss it, you miss it.
And you can't be late for lunch.
Right.
I mean, right, because then it impacts everybody else. So
yes,
you have these children in your classroom and you're performing and meeting these time deadlines all day.
Right. And so you've got an educator who's stressed. That educator is also trying to keep 20 plus children going, versus that scenario where we were just trying to get one child going. Okay.
Yes.
And so the stress is building up on all of the ends. And, sometimes when you're in the midst of it, as an educator, and you've got so many children around you with so many needs, it's like you were describing before when you were like, I've got to get this done and this done and this done. You get that tunnel vision, and sometimes you forget.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's human nature, right? To just get focused on what I have to do and like, come on, you all, this is what let's go.
Yes.
And like my famous saying of suck it up, buttercup, let's get going, right?
Yes. And those teachers, they also have, principals and they have lawmakers and everything looking at test scores. So, so there are so many things that go into this scenario. And so when we say challenging behaviors, sometimes we really have to look back to the iceberg under the surface. Okay, what else is going on here? So, just considering that there's more there and really trying to talk to the child and getting to the bottom of it.
Right. So for parents to really, instead of labeling as, my child's just a behavior problem, like I can just count on him or her to do this, this, and this, and this, and making my life difficult, I can never get to work on time. And right. So a lot of maybe stopping and thinking, wonder what has happened or what can I do differently?
Right.
And maybe we could have a different experience.
Yes. And even taking a moment, in that rush, to be like, okay, let's stop and calm for a minute. And there are breathing techniques that you can do with your child. I do them myself. Even before I came in here, I was like, okay, I need to calm for a second. I drove up here, got here early enough so I'd have that time. But again, I was an adult making that choice. I had control of that. But in that morning, sometimes taking 2 minutes out to do a calming breathing activity, just a moment to bring your child back down, to bring yourself back down so you're not playing off of each other's energy, can save you 10 minutes in the long run. Because, as you're getting those nerves and that anxiety up, you spill your coffee and your child forgets the homework and all of these other things happen that might have been prevented if you had taken, a minute or two just to calm and refocus.
Yes, notoriously. If I'm late, things happen that I become more frantic, right? And I forget things and I fumble things and I can't find my keys. And so, wow, Kim, I'd really have to think about like making myself just stop because so frantic. But if I could just stop for a minute and I take a deep breath and look at my child and say, okay, let's just hang on a second. That could be a game changer, you're saying.
Yes. Sometimes it's just stopping and saying, you know what? Acknowledging those feelings, And again, children don't always recognize the feelings. At young ages, sometimes it's you're happy, you're mad, you're sad. Those are your three choices. They don't necessarily get anxious or worried or frustrated because they've not been given that vocabulary yet. And so sometimes it's taking the adult, having that adult stop and model, like, oh, you know what? I got up late and now I'm so anxious and frustrated. I'm running late and all these bad things have happened. And describing what that feels like. Oh, you know what? When I get nervous, or anxious like I am now, like my heart starts beating faster. Or, my shoulders get tense. They start doing this. Sometimes I might get a knot in my belly. Okay. And letting them know and talking through them like, oh, are you feeling that way too? Because, I noticed you kept dropping some things. Are your hands kind of shaky? And a lot of times children, even if they're not, they're like, yes. But it's just starting to bring that language and that awareness to them. Like, hey, something's happening in your body. And then modeling the calm down. Yeah, you know what? I really need to take a minute to calm to my body, to let my body know that it's okay, that it's not in danger. I am safe. And sometimes I have to do that to let my body know, do you want to do it with me? And then taking that moment to do a breathing activity, or, just talking through, 2 minutes, and then, okay, you know what? My shoulders aren't up here anymore. They feel kind of relaxed. Oh, okay, my heart's not beating as fast. I think I'm ready to go back and try again. Are you ready? So you've modeled that stopping and taking a breath. And eventually, it's not going to happen overnight. This isn't, the amazing miracle solution that everybody wants. But with consistency and the adult modeling, eventually the child starts doing it. So if the child, is at school, and they don't have the parent there to model for them or to co-regulate, to walk them through it, they start doing them themselves because it's become so ingrained. They start recognizing those feelings. They start recognizing those shoulders are up here, or they're getting that feeling in their belly. And so you've now given them the tools to do that. Oh, I can do this breathing thing. I know it helps me feel better.
I can self-regulate.
Yes.
And Kim, I don't know that parents think about, we teach kids to, okay, tie your shoe. Don't put your elbows on the table. Eat with your utensils. Like there are all these things that very concrete. But what you're describing is you really have to take time and be intentional about it, right?
Right.
Because there's nothing to hold on to. You really have to teach them to think about what they're feeling, to give them words to describe it, and to give them permission to say, Mom, Dad,
Right.
this is bothering me.
Yes.
Because if we don't do that, chances are the feelings are going to come out in some way.
Exactly. One way or another, they are going to come out. You may like it,
Yes.
you may not,
Yes.
but they're going to eventually come out. And so sometimes that's when, maybe in school or at home or whatever, you might have, we often hear, like, we try to find the purpose, and then the adult might say, well, they did it for no reason.
Mm.
And that's the thing, that's such a hard thing to address, because it does look like they did it for no reason. And if you've got an adult, be it a parent that's doing the dishes and hear the two children arguing, or be it an educator in a classroom, they're not going to see everything. And it might have been something that happened 5 minutes before, and it just, then in that 5 minutes, it built up and it built up, and now
There
it's
you go.
coming out.
Yeah.
But teaching these things when children are calmer, if they've already had, if they're in the midst of, whatever you want to call it, a meltdown, an explosion, whatever it is, that's not the time to teach it, because that is like your spouse coming up to you. You are mad about something that happened during the day, and you are complaining and you are on a roll. And they say, oh, well, just calm down, or, oh, you're overreacting. Oh, that is a trigger for anybody and everybody. I have yet to meet somebody that doesn't in some way trigger.
I agree. I agree.
That's instant aggression. But you're essentially saying that to that child. Okay. They don't want to calm down. Or, well, I won't say they don't want to calm down. They do want to calm down, but they don't know how to do it.
Right.
Right now, they're just expressing that anger. Just like when you're venting to your spouse, and you're like, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just getting it out of my system. Okay. So in that case, keep the child safe. Keep the other children safe. Because if you've got a child who is lashing out toward other children, we want to make sure that the other children are safe as well. But that's not the time to say, it's okay, just breathe. Because just like with adults, that's a trigger.
Yeah, chances are that's not going to happen.
Exactly. So you want to catch them before that.
Okay.
So if for example, with a parent, your child gets upset before they go to the doctor. A lot of children do. They get stressed. They don't know if they're getting a shot. Sometimes you don't think they are, and then they get there and they are.
Surprise, right?
It's a surprise for everybody. And so now they feel betrayed. You've got all these different scenarios, but that can be a very nervous time for children. So before they go, you're explaining, oh, you know what? Sometimes I do get nervous when I go to the doctor, but I remember, when I've been before, everything worked out. My doctor kept me safe, kept me healthy. But you know what? Sometimes, even though I know that, I still feel nervous. So you know what? Do you want to take a few deep breaths with me? How does that make you feel now? And talking through that, and those 3 deep breaths, they may not solve the problem. Okay. But again, you've done it when it's not such an extreme behavior. Because if you waited until they were in the doctor's office and, they're like, hold them down for the shot. Okay, so now you've reached that extreme. That's not going to do it. But if you calm them and try to head off some of that anxiety that's built up to that explosion, you're, instead of starting here, you're starting here. And they have a little bit more room for that stress and anxiety.
So again, paying attention, being intentional, and thinking about, maybe every time my child has to go to school, we have this issue. Maybe it's really thinking about what is that child feeling and how can
Mhm.
I better prepare him or her for that,
Yes.
right?
And so-
Talking about transitions, like that was one of the things mentioned in the paper was kids are not, they're not really, they don't have the coping skills to do the transitions of all the things you have to do in school.
Yes, yes. And that actually made me think of one of the books. And this one, Mo Willems.
Waiting is not easy. Oh, I love
Yes.
Mo Williams.
Oh, I love him. And if anybody is unfamiliar with the series, it's the Elephant and Piggy series.
Mhm.
And such valuable lessons in such a simple, simple way. And have you read this one?
No, I have not.
This one is all about how Piggy has a special surprise for Gerald, the elephant. And so all day, just this anticipation is building up. And Piggy's like, not yet, not yet. You have to wait.
Which we do this to kids all the time.
Yes, yes. And it's a surprise. And you see where Piggy's coming from. He wants or she wants to surprise her friend. But it gets to the point now it's nighttime and Gerald Elephant can't stand it. You know, he's lost his cool. And so then, based on what the surprise is, he had to wait all that amount of time. And I won't spoil the ending.
Okay, don't spoil the ending.
But this is a good book for children who, you know, maybe they've never been in a school setting or even a preschool setting. You know, they've always been at home with mom or dad, or maybe you know, grandma, or just a single caretaker. And so they've never had to wait. You know, and so now,
Good point.
yes, and just the fact that you kept saying transitions, that's usually because they have to wait.
Yes.
You know, waiting in line to wash hands, for the bathroom, for
Yes.
lunch, for all the things.
Uh-huh.
So this is a great book. So if you know your child is going to school in the fall, well, I say fall loosely, in July or August, but start reading this book now, you know, and talking about it and practicing just that idea of waiting your turn, you know, and sometimes you have to wait for things to happen. So that's a good book to start reading.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mitch is going to put these titles and the authors in the
Good.
in the podcast notes so people can see them.
Perfect.
So, and I love this. I want to reiterate that books are tools. Like we talk about that on this podcast all the time. You know, you can buy books that you like that are fun stories, but to really use books like intentionally, this is a great way
Yes.
to be able to talk about feelings, like big feelings, behaviors, right?
Right.
And again, model and talk about, you know, how did Gerald and Piggy do this? And it helps them think about their own lives, right?
Yes.
So-
and it doesn't have to be, I do have some books that are specifically geared, like they are very intentional about emotions.
Okay.
But like with Elephant and Piggy, you know, they're intentional without appearing
Yes,
intentional.
yes.
You know, they're very conversational and simple.
Mhm.
Some of the other books I've got, and I'm like, ooh, where to start? This one is called Out of a Jar. Have you
Okay.
seen this one?
I have not seen this one.
I recently found this one and I love it. In the book, Llewellyn, the little rabbit, doesn't like the way his feelings make him feel.
Oh.
So he puts them in a jar.
And what's his name?
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn. Okay.
And so he puts all of them in the jar and, you know, keeps stuffing them in there, good, bad, all the things. And then the jar explodes.
Oh no.
Yes. So this just talks about how he suppresses everything and he doesn't talk about it, you know, and then by the end, he's come to terms with his feelings and he makes friends with his feelings and he acknowledges them, you know, the good and the bad. You know, so that's another thing of just being very careful with talking about feelings, that anger isn't necessarily bad.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we all have feelings and, you know, anger, stress, all of those things, they tell us something.
They serve a purpose.
Yes, they all have a purpose. And sometimes it's just building resilience.
Yes.
But this points that out, you know, of all feelings have value, you know, and then it's what we do with them, you know, that makes it a challenging behavior versus a not challenging behavior.
Correct. Yes, and just really how to build self-regulation. That's a beautiful book.
It is.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay.
Let you read it.
I cannot wait.
Okay. Let's see. This one is Some Days I Flip My Lid.
Oh, how funny.
Learning to be a calm, cool kid.
Oh, okay.
And so in this book, it actually goes through some of the stress responses and referring to flip my lid, of course, losing my temper. Sometimes I do that and I want to fight. Sometimes I do that and I want to run away. And so it goes through those stress responses, fight, flight, and on this one, freeze. There's also fawn, which not everybody is familiar with, but I don't think this one goes through fawn though, but it talks about the way your body feels. My face gets blotchy and my body feels tight. I say mean things and I sometimes fight. Okay. So it goes through those different emotions and how your body feels physically. And then it also talks about mindful breathing. So in this book, they refer to it as you breathe on purpose.
Oh,
Because, again, when you talk about breathing, a lot of people, they're like, well, we breathe anyways.
right.
But when you're stressed, you have shallow breathing. Okay?
Fast.
Yes, exactly. And that increases the heart rate, which, all of this
Makes it
that
worse.
cycle going. And so he learns about breathing on purpose. And so that might be some words that you use with a child. You know what? I think we need to breathe on purpose. Do you want to take a minute to do that? Going back to the fawn reaction.
Yes, I want to know about this.
Yes. So we know about fight or flight. And for those who don't, fight, is usually aggression, anger. Flight is when a child might want to run or hide, escape. Freeze is when maybe they become silent, or they do exactly what it says. They freeze, like they feel like they can't react. Fawn is when a child becomes, we'll say, overeager to please, or very passive. So that's the child that when you say, oh, what do you want to play? Oh, I don't care, whatever you want to play. Okay. Or they're the peacekeeper. If somebody's arguing, they're trying to make the peace. And the thing is that doesn't always get noticed as a stress response because the children who are doing that are usually the ones that were saying, oh, that's such a nice, sweet child.
I don't have to worry about you, right?
Right.
Yes.
And so that stress gets ignored. So that's why I also always say, if you're an educator, or if you're a parent, which, or, any loved one, do some of these activities with all your children, whether it's the whole class, whether it's just multiple children at home, because even though you might not realize it, they can all benefit from this.
That is such a good point.
Yes.
Such a good point. I'm a middle child, so I was always the peacekeeper, right? But I got a lot of kudos for being the peacekeeper.
Exactly.
But that was stressful.
Right.
Right?
It is.
Yes.
Yes. And sometimes too, it's like you're trying to please both ends and then you're stuck in the middle and you're just like, I don't know what to do and I don't know what to say. I just want to make this better.
Right.
And, a lot of children are feeling that too.
Yes.
And even children at home, if they've got, families that are very combative or very argumentative, that might present its way at school. Yes. I just want to keep the peace. So we see a lot of that and not realize it.
Yes. Good point. Excellent point.
So we always say start early and start young. This is belly breathe.
Belly breathe.
And this one is very simple. And to me, it's geared toward the very young, but older children can, preschool, kindergarten, the early grades can use it too. But if you're mad or sad or worried, just belly breathe. But it's done in a fun way.
Yes.
So it's breathe in through your nose or your snout or your trunk.
Or your trunk.
Okay, whatever it is. And then breathe out the bad. Okay? Breathe out the junk.
Yes.
Okay. So it gives just those very basic things so children become aware, of their breath and their breathing.
And gives it to them in a very concrete way so they can, I'm not just, I can really think about, oh, I can do it out my nose. I can do it out my mouth. I can do it upside down. I can,
Right.
right?
And I can pretend to be an elephant. Oh, what's an elephant going to sound like when he breathes out? Oh, he's going to be really loud. Versus the sloth, who probably isn't going to be so loud.
That's a great book. And it's a board book, so really appropriate for very little.
Yes.
The little littles.
Yes. The little beaties. Okay. And this one is for also a board book, but this one it can be for multiple ages, but it's alpha breaths. So it's the ABCs of mindful breathing.
Oh, okay.
And in this one, also a board book, so very sturdy, but it's got kind of along these same lines of animals breathing, but it also goes through the alphabet. So alligator breath, open your arms wide like alligator jaws on the in breath and snap them shut on the out breath.
I like that.
Okay. So if you've got children who maybe they're the ones who need more active movement, and just trying to get them to, breathe calmly is a task. This might be something that's geared more toward them.
Right.
Something, that gets them excited about, oh, okay, can you do it even bigger?
Yes.
So, cake breath, blowing out candles.
Blowing out candles. I like that one. Oh, dolphin breath. Right.
Breathe in as you lift your arms up high. Breathe out as you imagine diving into the ocean. Okay. So just different ways to accomplish the same thing.
Right.
And these are by an author I love, and her name is Kira Willie. And she does a series of these books.
Okay.
And they are all about breathing, but they're put in a story form. And this one, Breathe Like a Bear, for example, of course, I should have marked this, but there are different ones. Like, imagine you're a tree, okay? And then it goes through what might be considered, say, a yoga mindfulness activity without making it sound like that.
Okay.
So imagine you're a tree and you have roots growing down into the earth. You're big and strong. Okay? And so you might pause for a moment and say, ooh, can you make your feet go into the earth?
Yes.
Okay? So again, you're bringing their awareness back to that body. Exactly. Some of them are more energizing.
And how colorful.
Clap. Yes. Yes, I love the illustrations. And the illustration, I think, is Annie Betts.
I haven't seen these before.
Yes. They've got a whole series.
Oh, relax. Oh, that is so good.
And I used these in my classroom where I would just pick one and be like, oh, okay, let's do snake breath.
Snake breath.
And then when the children became familiar with it, they would say, I want to do, because they knew them. So, like I said, she's got a few different of these.
Peaceful like a panda.
Yes. And they are also divided so that they are in sections, whether you want calming ones, or energizing ones.
Oh, okay.
So even doing these like before bed.
Oh, yeah.
If you want a calming one, work on the calm one. Maybe you're getting up in the morning. Maybe you want the energized one.
Yep.
Whatever it is that your child needs in that moment. But as I was doing the research for this, and I was telling Kim before this author also wrote a book that is about being nervous before the first day of school.
Oh.
And so I had to look it up on YouTube. I had to find it because I did not have a copy handy. Obviously, I didn't know about it. So I looked it up on YouTube, and there is a video of the author actually reading it. So, yes. And so I watched that, and I was like, I love this book. But it goes through all those feelings that a child might be feeling, knowing they're getting ready to go to school, and knowing that, they might not know anybody, and having that stress, where do I go? What do I do? And so then it walks through that mindful breathing also.
Okay.
Oh, I know I can take deep breaths. it walks the child through that also. So that's another book I've now ordered because, like, I need a copy of
Well, and this is the perfect time of year to start reading that.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Because if you start reading it now,
Right.
you've given them those tools. Hopefully, they'll kind of become ingrained by the time school actually starts.
And sometimes children that are going to kindergarten are visiting this time of year. Am I right?
Yes. And take your child on those trips. Let them go and see the different classrooms. Another good tip is even like if you have access to the playground after school, which I know some
Right.
school playgrounds are kept locked, but some are open, just going maybe on the weekend and
That's a
play
good
on the
idea.
playground.
To build some familiarity.
Yes. And sometimes, you have other children that are doing the same
Yes.
thing. You might meet
You might
somebody.
meet somebody.
Also, if you have, if the parents know of other children who are going to school and they're going to that same school, maybe you do it as a group or with a few, so that way they know some familiar faces, and maybe they haven't met those children before.
Right.
But we're going to the same school. Let's go check it out together. So at least they have one friendly face that they know.
Good ideas.
Yeah.
Very good ideas.
Yeah. Anything to ease that stress.
Yes.
Because even
Yes.
though as adults, it's like, this is my baby. My baby is going off to kindergarten, and you're worried sick. You try not to show your child.
Right.
But even as you're doing that, you're saying, it's fine. Don't worry. You'll be okay. And deep down, like, you're worried too.
Oh, yeah.
But then you're telling them not to worry.
Right.
So
And they can sense it.
Exactly. They know.
They know.
They know.
They know you pretty well.
Yeah.
Right.
And every parent tries to hide it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
every now and then it comes out. And so, just saying, you know what? It sounds like maybe you're a little worried about it. Is that what's going on? And they may say yes, they may say no. But either way, you've opened the door to that conversation.
Right.
So that way, if they are starting to feel worried, they are saying, you know what, I'm kind of scared.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm worried about this, Mom. This is going to be different.
Exactly.
Right. It's going to be really different from what I do
Yes. And different is okay. Like,
Right.
even talking about
Just different.
Right. Talking about that and letting them know, like, yes, it will be different. But you can do this.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed you have another one of my favorite books there about Alexander.
Yes. This one is a classic. And I looked up because I was like, when was this published? This was published in 1972 originally. And I was like, a lot of parents, would know this book. And then I was thinking, a lot of grandparents would know this book.
I was going to say,
I was like,
I know this book because, that's probably my age when I started reading.
Well, and that was the thing. I was like, when I was like, grandparents, that was making me feel old. I was like, oh.
Yes.
But this is an amazing little book about Alexander, who had everything go wrong, and kind of like we were talking about earlier, that stress that has built up all day. And so he's like, I'm going to move to Australia. And I had a teacher friend who her calming area, she named Australia.
Really?
And she put up the Australian flag and
That's
had
cute.
a whole
That's cute.
had a whole thing around it. But it was based on this book. And so this is excellent for parents to read because they get an idea of, okay, this is kind of what it looks like from a child's perspective. And then I had to put on these pajamas, and I hate these pajamas. And we've all done that where we've put on
Yes,
clothes.
Mom thinks they're cute.
Yes.
I don't like these.
Yes, it's fine. You look adorable.
Yes, you look adorable.
Yes.
Your grandma gave you these. Just
Right.
wear them.
But what the child's not saying is the tag is scratching my neck.
Or they're
and
too hot.
Exactly.
They're
and
scratchy.
yes, all of those things, or maybe when they get to school, they know the school is cold. And so now they're going to be cold. So there are all these things that the children don't necessarily express.
But they're feeling.
Yes, they're feeling. And so sometimes it may be, okay, wait, why don't you want to wear it? And sometimes they, then they're like, oh, why don't I want to wear it? Well, because this hurts, or whatever it is. So I like this because it gives the perspective of the child.
Yes.
And of course,
Terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Sometimes I tell myself that, like, Kim, this has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Like, what are we going to do to make it better?
yes.
Yeah, you have brought so many. I'm going to make sure they're all in the notes
Okay.
so people can access them. You mentioned the one is on YouTube,
Yes.
so I'll make sure I put that link in.
Yes.
So let me summarize what I've heard you say. I love that you talked about the iceberg, right? Like, we see this part of a person, but we don't see what's under, right?
Right.
Kind of reminds me of like a duck. I can look very serene sometimes, but inside I'm, paddling like crazy. So I love that. And then I took my glasses on because I can't read my notes. I love the breathing and modeling and talking about feelings, especially in the rush of things, to really take a minute and go, okay, wait, and model for them, like, okay, let me just calm myself down for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's just take some time. I'm getting too worked up. I can't find my keys.
Yes. And just knowing that an adult is feeling the same way you are, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Well, and I can remember my son, who is much more relaxed than me. I'm very high strung. He used to say, Mom, breathe. And I would say, Andrew, Mom, no, really, breathe. By the time he was in middle school.
Yes.
Because he could see the, Mom, you're doing it.
Yes.
So that was very good. I guess I did a good job of describing to him, these are the things I'm feeling.
It sounds like you did an excellent job.
He still tells me that, like, Mom, calm
And
down.
that he was able to recognize your signs.
And then the books, the calming time, giving kids the vocabulary. I love that you were talking about the knot in your stomach or, the tense shoulders. And so they could really start thinking about those things that happen when they're feeling something.
And even adults don't think about that.
That's so true.
Where, how many times are you driving and your shoulders are up here and your teeth are clenched and then you're like, oh,
Yes,
and you very consciously bring them down.
Yes, that's true. Very true. And I love talking about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. That's a whole new concept for me, but so true.
It is.
So true.
And so many behaviors that are ignored that we don't necessarily notice or attend to.
Yes. So as a society, for those of you that are working with children in any way, whether it's at church, childcare, parenting, grandparenting, really think about these things of how you can give language to children, to explain how they're feeling, to recognize that they have feelings, to recognize that you're kind of pulling them along and they have feelings about that too.
Yes.
Because it would really make a difference in our society if we could all just
Right.
and pay attention and think about why we're feeling the way we're feeling.
Yes.
Take a breath, encourage one another, and keep going. Yeah. I'm so glad
Yes.
you came today.
I'm glad.
Yes.
I was here and I could share something.
You have given a lot of things. In fact, you have things in here about, you have the children's book list, you have the references, all the authors you've listed, breathing techniques to try. So I'll make sure that Mitch gets all of these in the podcast notes for people to access.
Yes, I definitely want them to look those up, see if there's something that will work for them.
I'm so excited. And hopefully we can have another article soon that says we're making progress, right?
Hope.
Classroom crisis is coming to an end because we have all learned to take a minute.
Yes, if only. If only.
If only. That's our goal. Thank you all for listening. I have to say thank you to our sponsor, Ballad Health, for investing in this and allowing us to have a podcast that educates parents and child care providers and teachers and grandparents and just the whole community on how to raise healthier children. I hope you join me again for the next episode. I have more stellar guests coming this week and next. Until I talk with you next time, take care. Thank you.